New outrage tonight over the case of a Texas Border Patrol agent sentenced to 2 years in prison for his supposed rough treatment of an illegal immigrant drug smuggler. The case against Agent Jesus Diaz was brought by the Obama Justice Department on charges of civil rights violations and allegedly lying to investigators. Diaz was eventually convicted of using excessive force on the 15-year-old drug dealer by wrenching his handcuffed arms upward while pressing a knee to his back. But defense attorneys argued that Agent Diaz was, in fact, did nothing to cause an injury or a bruise to the suspect, and photographic evidence carries out their contention. Critics of the prosecution contend that the case was politically motivated because the case was brought at the urging of the government of Mexico. Turning now to the ongoing investigation into the botched gun-running operation Fast and Furious, that operation allowing thousands of firearms to be smuggled across the U.S.-Mexico border. The firearms later found to be used in the murder of U.S. Border Patrol border agent Brian Terry. Also, 200 Mexican citizens, according to the Attorney General of Mexico, killed with weapons involved in Operation Fast and Furious. Tonight, there are new questions about the weapon used in the murder of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent in Mexico, Jaime Zapata. The weapon tracked back to ATF straw buyers in Texas. Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano today hit with questions about the gun-running operations by House Oversight Committee Chairman Darrell Issa and Congressman Trey Gowdy. The secretary seemed, at best at times, reluctant to answer questions.
You have two dead agents that worked for you, one north of the border, one south of the border, and particularly in the case of Brian Terry, he was gunned down with two weapons from Fast and Furious. It has been months, and you tell me that you're not, you weren't doing it because of an IG investigation. Well, let's go through a few questions here, Madam Secretary.
Wait just a minute.
No, wait a second. Let me finish my question.
Do you agree there were problems with Fast and Furious?
I thought you were asking a much more specific question. But what I would say is, obviously, there were problems with Fast and Furious.
What were those problems?
Well, obviously, you don't want to let guns with the kind of firepower that we now know were involved to get out of your control.
Is firepower the only reason you don't allow guns to walk?
There's a number of them, but if you want to cross-examine me about
I'm not cross-examining you, Madam Secretary. I'm asking you about Fast and Furious.
Well, those questions coming from Congressman Trey Gowdy, and of course the chairman of the powerful House Oversight and Government Reform Committee and member of the Judiciary Committee as well, is Congressman Darrell Issa, who joins us now, as does Congressman Gowdy of South Carolina, also a member of both committees. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Mr. Chairman, let me turn to you first. Secretary Napolitano seemed at best to be a reluctant, if not outright hostile witness. What were your impressions?
Well, she was testy, but most importantly, she didn't have answers to important questions, Lou, like why is it that in December Brian Terry's gunned down, and yet she's using the excuse of an IG investigation that didn't begin until February, long after Senator Grassley and I had begun our investigation. And
Congressman Gowdy, as you were inquiring of the secretary, she didn't seem to. Well, she felt she was being cross-examined. Did you get any answers that you sought?
Well, what I learned was that she thinks operational control of the border would allow for thousands of weapons to go undetected into Mexico. What I learned was she conceded the Department of Justice had to know about Fast and Furious because there were Title III applications which would have had to have been approved. Chairman Issa is correct. She was recalcitrant. She was, shall we say, a reluctant witness. These are serious issues. And if she didn't like the tone and tenor of the questions, that's unfortunate, but we need answers, and we're going to get them.
Well, and Lou, you know, one of the most important things for both of us, we sat there along with all the members of the Judiciary Committee astonished that she would say she doesn't have time and Eric Holder doesn't have time to have one-on-one conversations about not one but two dead agents gunned down with weapons that never should have been in the hands of these very bad people.
Yeah, and in both of those instances, of course, those agents directly the responsibility of Secretary Napolitano. Let us share with our audience some of the Secretary's responses as we go through this, and if you would, I know you lived through it once, but if you would, a sample for our audience here.
I just am not going to comment to that. I don't know those specifics. I just can't comment. I'm just not going to comment or go beyond what I know. And I just can't comment to that. I just don't know the answers to that.
Congressman Gowdy, you seem a little, let's say, you looked as though your patience was being tested. I'll put it kindly.
Well, those are legitimate questions, and the American people have a right to expect answers. And to say I don't know is very different from saying I know, but I'm not going to tell you. And if she doesn't know the answers to those questions, she should have. So her choice is much like the Attorney General's was. Either answer the question truthfully or tell us why you're not going to. But to say you don't know when you're a former United States attorney, former attorney general, and current cabinet level official, and you haven't bothered to have a conversation with Eric Holder about the death of 2 Border Patrol agents, strains credibility at best.
Chairman Issa, where do we go from here with Homeland Security, with Secretary Napolitano, with the Justice Department and the Attorney General, Eric Holder?
Well, because the Secretary had so few answers today, she willingly told us that she'd be happy to answer any questions we wanted to submit in writing. So candidly, we're going to be asking a fairly extensive series of questions that she was unprepared to answer today. Now, I know I'll get boilerplate answers in some cases, but we'll be specific. We really do believe that the American people have a right to expect the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Secretary of all of our law enforcement, effectively, the portion that's not in Homeland Security, the FBI, the DEA, the ATF. We expect Justice and Homeland Security to talk on a regular basis. One of our questions is going to be, if you and Eric Holder can't seem to get time to talk about what you seem to both not know about, who can we go to at a lower level where we can ensure that the kind of communication that's essential if America's going to be safe and if laws are going to be obeyed? Who are these people? Because right now we're only finding the people who couldn't see a problem with Fast and Furious. We'd like to find the people who have the guts to say stop to things that are just wrong.
Your investigation will continue. Do you have further whistleblowers, further evidence to build a future foundation on?
Well, as you know, every time one of us does an appearance like this, we have yet another whistleblower come forward with credible information. Now, often that leads to additional questions to the administration, and they haven't been forthcoming with answers. But until we get answers the American people can believe in, answers that show us this won't happen again, answers to who is really going to be held responsible, not just scapegoats at the low level, we have to continue. We will continue. Trey and I both are members of Judiciary, where Chairman Smith is continuing. And of course, our other committee, the Government Oversight and Reform Committee, we will continue, along with Senator Grassley. This is an obligation, not a pursuit of anything except that which the American people expect us to pursue.
And again, speaking of Senator Grassley and Congressman Issa, sending another letter to the Justice Department seeking some reconciliation again of the facts surrounding the death. In this case, as we reported, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agent Zapata. Thank you both, gentlemen. I appreciate you being here.
Yes,
Congressman Gowdy, thank you. Chairman Issa, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Up next.